Okay, so here's a topic that needs to get explained because a lot of people misuse the term and misunderstand what it represents. We oftentimes see these claims like this food speeds up your metabolism or do this if you have a slow metabolism. I'm going to talk about metabolism in this video, how you can affect it with exercise, what it even means, and to debunk some of these this one food does this type claims. So first of all, to say someone has a fast metabolism or slow metabolism, and this is why they're skinny or fat, is somewhat of a misinterpretation of the term. It is tangentially related to that, but it doesn't encompass what metabolism actually is, which is the sum total of the catabolic and anabolic processes in your body. In other words, all the processes that break things down into their constituent parts to make energy or to rebuild things that you need, like bone, muscle, nerves, DNA, and then, the process of doing so, the anabolic process. Now, pulling that thread can take us down a whole lot of fascinating physiological science that doesn't really need to be elucidated upon for the purposes of this video. What I want to talk about is that portion of metabolism that is so often colloquially used, that of the energy balance equation. How we derive as an end result from these metabolic processes a larger or smaller human. A human with more or less adipose tissue, more or less muscle, so on and so forth. We can break this energy balance portion of the discussion to the energy requirements to sustain your life, so just your resting metabolic rate, digestion of foods that you consume, and then of course your activity. We can break this down even further into BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate. We're going to talk about that shortly here. NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, so like fidgeting about, the thermic effect of food, and then exercise activity thermogenesis, which you can see is just that little itty bitty sliver of your metabolism, to use the term colloquially, on the top. Now, starting with BMR, or your basal metabolic rate, that's where the lion's share of your actual energy expenditure comes from. This is what's required to just keep you, up and above ground. Now, if we could adjust this category of metabolism, that would be something. That would be a massive lever. However, most of the claims of this one thing will fix your metabolism, or don't do this or it'll slow your metabolism, it doesn't really affect this, folks. In fact, even aging only has a marginal effect on your BMR. It drops something like 1 to 2% a decade based off of the literature. That's why not every person over 40 is morbidly obese, right? There's plenty of fit, thin, healthy, elderly people. The next largest component is your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. We say thermogenesis, thermo as in heat, genesis as in to make, because the calorie as a measure of energy is technically a form of heat energy. And that's why we use the term burning calories in air quotes as a fictitious but ostensibly accurate term. Okay, so NEAT. NEAT is a big one, folks, that most people don't realize how impactful it is. It's actually more impactful than actually your training when it comes to calorie burn. NEAT is the stuff like tapping your fingers and fidgeting, shivering, for instance, when you're cold is NEAT as well. And the literature overwhelmingly indicates that the quote-unquote perpetually skinny people, or the individuals that just like eat whatever they want and they don't seem to gain a pound, their NEAT is much, much higher than yours or mine. And you can observe this too in your friends and family that have this trait, they're constantly moving around throughout the day, constantly fidgeting, constantly, drumming their fingers and moving about. And you think that that's nothing, right? Like, how can all those little movements actually do anything? In terms of calorie expenditure, in aggregate over the course of the day, it ends up being a lot, like several hundred calories. Put a pin in that because we're going to come back to it when we discuss the exercise portion. Then that next largest portion, or I guess the third largest or the second smallest, would be TEF, the thermic effect of food. Now, this is what people are talking about when they say, like, eat spicy foods to speed up your metabolism, or eat this food to increase TEF. Well, here's the thing. I mean, yeah, marginally that's the case, but if you're like 50, 80, 100 pounds overweight, marginally increasing the thermic effect of your diet, you're not going to see anything substantial change in your health or appearance. It's not even the kind of thing that adds like a plus or a minus to a letter grade. You know what I mean? It's the equivalent of your food is almost as salted as you want it, and then you add like a little bit more salt and you're like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. Almost by definition a marginal effect. So nothing that I'd bet the farm on or write home about. It's not to say to ignore it completely. It's just, again, these videos and articles that say like, this is the one thing to do to speed up your metabolism. Like, no. It's not. All right, and then last, coming to the title of this video, exercise. Herein, folks, is why I say all the time, don't just move around to burn calories, train for a training effect. Train with intent. Exercise as a means to ramp up caloric expenditure is really inefficient. Number one, because even if you do a lot of it, it still pales in comparison to just digesting your food, your resting metabolic rate, and all the fidgeting around that you do throughout the day. Furthermore, it has diminishing returns depending on how high or low your fitness level is. Now, the more fit you are, the more exercise you can do before you get diminishing returns, but that goes into the training effects of exercise. The thing with exercise, folks, is like, I wish that there was a way we could just exercise our way to apotheosis, because I love exercising. I would do it all the time if fatigue wasn't a thing. But it is, and what fatigue does from exercise is once you pass a certain titrated dose, your body will automatically downregulate your NEAT in order to compensate for the extra energy that you're forcing it to do via like conscious exercise. So no, this is not an excuse to not exercise. It just means you should exercise in an appropriate dosage for specific training effects. What are those training effects? There are two main ones that contribute to your metabolism. Muscle, first of all, is a massive pocket for glucose storage. Second of all, muscle can mobilize glucose from the blood into it independent of insulin. So having a lot of muscle allows you to eat more carbohydrates and not get insulin resistant. And then cardio, which for whatever reason these days everyone thinks is not as important as lifting. Cardio improves your bioenergetics. It improves your mitochondrial function and enables you to utilize fats and carbs more appropriately for the right tasks. You become what is referred to as metabolically flexible, meaning you can burn a variety of fuels doing a variety of different tasks. And then you add this to the signaling cascade that comes from specific forms of exercise and muscle itself. The second and third order effects of training in this manner feed back into the processes that establish your BMR in the first place. So if you're looking for the one thing you can do to improve your metabolism, in addition to sleep hygiene and a balanced diet, obviously, it's exercise, but not the calories burned from exercise. Think about the health benefits and lean body mass gained from resistance training and cardio. Thanks for watching.